Okay, we are going to continue to work with um, the heel and what it sets up for us today. So, just a couple of anatomy points. You will need a ball, like it could be a tennis ball. I've got a massage ball and then a foam golf ball, but some sort of a ball, and then some anatomy points. So, this is a right foot. So, I want us to kind of be aware of the heel, and I'm just going to kind of separate that calcaneus from the rest of the foot so you can kind of appreciate its shape. It's kind of crazy. So the shape of the calcaneus and how it shares that cuneiform with the fourth and fifth metatarsal. So we've got all the plantar fascia hooks onto this bottom notch and then goes out to each of the metatarsals and then each of the bones of the toes. And then this notch at the back of the heel is the reason that bone is shaped like that is that's a huge anchor point for all the fascial bags that hold the muscles of the lower leg and on up to the hip. They all converge into that Achilles tendon on there. So we're going to work the action of the heel. I want you to just appreciate its shape and that it's not flat. And we're going to talk in terms of getting pressure to this outside edge of the heel and what that sets up, this inside edge of the heel and what that sets up, and being on the center of that heel and what that sets up for us. So let's just give a little biofeedback to our heels to start with. So you're going to grab a ball and simply it's going to come under. You want to sort of find that notch where all of those ligamentous attachments happen and tendon attachments, that hook kind of on the bottom side of the heel. And then we're just going to go side to side. And then maybe you go to one side and press down, center, press down, inside, press down. Notice sort of what your forefoot does as you press down on each of those spots. And then again, it's kind of side to side. Then I'm going to take my forefoot off and just kind of roll around the heel, feeling, the extra skin that we've got on it and the padding of the heel and our calluses, but also then appreciating sort of the sense of feeling the heel bone in there. Feeling where the pointy bits on your heel is and the ledges. Okay, then you're gonna let that go on the one side and just stand with some weight and pressure back into the heel. Notice the sense of the left side and the right side. And then we're gonna do that same just biofeedback with the ball on the other side. So start with the ball of the foot on the ground. We're just swiveling side to side. And then start to, again, get pressure. And also look down your leg. Start to appreciate sort of the position of your thigh bone, the position of your shin bone. Like, depending where your heel is, what happens in those other two. As you use the ball, can you use the ball to kind of get more pressure to the outside edge of that heel? In the center of that heel, to the inside edge of that heel. And can that heel pressure change without you having to move your whole leg? I don't want to have to move my whole leg to be able to change the pressure on the heel. Okay, and then we can get rid of that ball. So that can just be a nice thing to do to just remind us the shape of that bone, kind of get into those tissues a little bit. Again, in standing, just kind of notice with weight back and into the heels. Maybe play with those tendinous attachments on the underside of the foot and reach out long through the big toe and long through the pinky toe. Not pressing them down, but reaching long through them, and see then as you reach long through them, where does the pressure in your heel go? Does it go for you more to the inside edge, more to the middle, more to the outside edge? Can you play with the reach and or yaw of those metatarsals to change again where that weight or pressure is in the heel? Because again, they all attach to that rudder of the heel. Okay, and then try shake that side that you did. Maybe you did both. I was only focused on one. Come to that other side and again play with that sense of reaching long through those guys. And where's that naturally put pressure on your heel? Can you change that sense of reach to the first metatarsal, the fifth metatarsal, to get pressure into different spots of your heel? Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
So, John, it's to get that subtle shift, right? Like,
yes.
That's what helped. And so then by not having to move your leg and you can just kind of feel it on the ball, then you can feel, oh, that's what a yaw feels like. Oh, that's what that feels like. And that's how those subtle shifts happen. And then the big changes that they make on the way up.
Yes. Yep. Again, though, too, we're going to keep working with this. So now, for instance, we're going to reach down and touch our toes. I want us to get weight on the outside of the heel as we go to touch the toe. So do what works for you. I don't want it to be a movement from like external or internal rotation from up at the femur though, but get pressure on the outside of that heel as you touch your toes and just notice what, and consider like who moved out of the way first. Who moved first as you got pressure on the outside of that heel? And you might not be able to tell right this second, but you will here on the next one. So now this one, get weight in the center of the heel. We're going to keep weight in the center of that heel, touch your toes. Feel how that set up something different in terms of like who went first, further, faster. Okay? This time get weight on the inside of that heel as you touch the toes. And again, feel who goes first, further, faster. Get weight on the inside of the toes. So how I would describe it, well, I'm going to ask you to describe what was the difference between those three setups?
Okay, so I don't know if I did these right at all, but so when I was outside, my legs just kind of went out and I just went down, like just without me thinking about it. When I was in the center, I kind of just folded it. It felt like even my stomach or something had to move out of the way. And then when I was in, it felt like I could feel the outside pull on my glutes, like opening that way, kind of spreading in the pelvis that way.
Okay, so I'm going to break it down even more from a sense of just levers. So when that fulcrum point is the outside of the heel, the lever that shifts is it topples the thigh. So it sets us up in like butt back squat kind of action. The thigh gets out of the way first. Okay? Yeah, I see you nodding. You're like, oh yeah, that is. So then when we're in the center of the heel, the torso, it's a hinge. It sets up a hinge. As soon as the weight shifts, the torso, and that's the belly you were describing. Yes. Inside of the heel, shin. Shin goes forward. Inside of the heel, the shin goes forward first, and there's a feel like you are going to keep going forward because again, that shin sets up the thigh rotation. And it's not that one of those is right and the other two are wrong. It's that when I look at something like long jump, as I'm running to the board, I'm likely going to set up outside heel to inside heel to start to get me these larger bounds. And then when I hit the board to take off, I want inside heel, and that's what hucks me. Okay, when I'm downhill skiing, I'm using all of those. So now we want to start to play with those to set some things up. So I always have been trying to figure out, like, okay, half moon, warrior three, like these things, yes, it's a case of heel on the ground, but it's more of a case of the heel in the air. Because again, if I'm working from levers, I then now have changed the fulcrum point from being my foot on the floor to being my pelvis, like a toenail clippers or like a nutcracker. So now if I want to think about something when my foot's coming off the ground, I'm focusing on the leg in the air. I'm focusing on where the weight is in the heel on the ground. If I set it up to be outside heel and middle heel and work that heel in the air, I can get down here. I don't run into myself because I work the femur back and then I work making space to get my torso forward through where pressure is on that heel. But my pelvis and where the two legs meet, that's the scissoring action versus just focusing on to reach the ground with my hand. Or so we're working the heel and then starting to play a bit with our attention. So now instead of focusing on the hand going to the ground, focus on this back leg. It's what's lowering the hand to the ground. It's what's lowering. It counterbalances this guy. I can also use this arm to work it too. And all of a sudden, you are using the top half of your body to support the bottom half of the body to get into these things that might have you felt like you had to muscle through before.
Right, and also I felt a lot more stable.
Yes.
Like I didn't have any wobbling that normally I have by focusing on that upper heel.
Or what's the cue?
That inside heel be the outside.
Or what's the cue on this one?
Foot heel.
They're like push the leg out. This ends up being the cue. If I do that, I'm like very precarious in it. So just starting to think of these things where maybe we were hip focused and how we can actually get way more out of the hips as we play with that heel. So let's just do the same thing on that other side. So play with heel weight. Maybe it's inside to start because you want the knee to bend, or maybe it's outside to start. Like coming the first time, let's go inside, center to start to lower that torso. And then maybe you go outside of the heel, or maybe you go back inside of the heel. Okay, so just focus on that one on the ground for a second. Now, focus not just on the one on the ground, but the one in the air. Use that heel, ball of the foot in the air to lower that hand down. It's different from the other side, again, because of the preferences of where we naturally go on that heel to start with. I find this one first, I'll very easily, so now this time go to the outside edge of that heel, okay? And then play with, when do you go to the inside edge of the heel? I start just before I set it. I started to go to not the inside, but the middle of my heel. And all of a sudden that brought my torso to my thigh and made it feel like a lot more, like I was controlling how my body was moving in space versus do this, then lift this leg. There was more, conductor orchestra kind of thing.
Yeah, that inside felt super connected. So then when I did that, I was like, oh wow, I feel grounded. Like my belly was touching my leg, and so then I'm like, oh, it feels like I'm secure here.
Yeah.
And so that was that center line, right? And then the outside is feeling on this left leg for me, it's feeling a little more wobbly, but the inside feels more stable. That inside to center. So that's probably just the difference for us. On my right leg, that outside is definitely feels that.
Yes, and because we all have different kind of foot shapes, it also plays with it, right? A shorter foot with a higher medial arch is going to be different than a longer foot with a lower medial arch, a more spread out transverse arch. So those arches in the shape of the feet are going to dictate also where that you feel that pressure in the heel. But again, it's getting to know your foot and the mechanisms to set up, okay, through using that heel to do the things you want to do.
Yeah, and so then I have a question though, because if I thought more about the foot that was lifting up and focusing my energy through that back lifting air heel, I felt more stable.
Mm.
Is that okay?
Yeah, totally.
So then if I get in a situation, it's like that up foot is still
Yep.
that one that can help with the balance.
Yep. The remove leg will help us set up the stance leg oftentimes. But so often we're trained to think about the stance leg and negate the leg in the air. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that was a really great way to feel that because maybe I didn't explain that remove leg, right? Like properly when I said it, and I'm like, oh, but now when I can feel it, I'm like, oh, maybe there's a better way I can explain that.
Yeah. Totally. And all you do is explain and see what the system.
It's informing our body of where we are in gravity, right? Is that why it works like that?
Both are, but what happens with, again, it's just the levers and rotations. And if we have one leg in contact with the ground, it's not that that's the only leg doing something. The one in the air is also setting up rotations, right? And so this one's more impacted by ground force reaction because the ground is actually pushing up into us even though we can't see it. So this one in the air is what helps us get stuff out of this versus us just thinking stand up on this leg, push with this leg. More and more we want this leg to receive. This is the leg that's gonna, because then I can just use gravity. It's just gravity then that's gonna take that down. Not sure if I answered your question or just words, but.
It just doesn't go in instantly. Like it's just a whole shift, and so then it makes perfect sense for a second, and then I've got to integrate it, and then it makes sense, and then I've got to integrate it. It's just that process, right? That evolution of learning, and so it's like you get it, you get that great glimpse. Oh yeah, 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 and then it's like you got to build it into your system.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this stuff, like, it isn't written in a book. The books out there aren't saying what I'm saying.
Because you're 10 years ahead of everybody on, as I've been saying for the last 3 years now.
so it's not in a book somewhere. So luckily I talk to people that are grinding through this stuff similar to me, and yeah, we just keep challenging and pushing one another. So let's play with that same sequence we did last week, bringing just this new kind of layer of the pressure and manipulating the pressure in our heel by way of the toes, especially out that pinky and out that fifth metatarsal, to get us pressure into that heel. So starting at the back of our mat, okay, let's come into this one and pick. Are you going to go heel to the outside, heel to the middle, heel to the inside? I'm going to go outside. And this is why the other week I was like, gosh, how's my chair so deep, but I don't feel like my quads are burning? But it's that pressure on that outside of the heel. All of a sudden I can just like really easily sit back down and into that, okay, with my torso up. I'm not fighting things. So then I'm going to get weight to the inside of this heel, and that automatically is going to set me with my step. Last week we talked about pitching the shin, but now we understand, weight to the inside of that shin is going to pitch the shin. Okay? So now I'm on the front here. I'm going to work on this guy because I want to stay more upright. I'm going to work inside of this heel on the ground. The one back in the air, I'm kind of going inside too. Okay? But then when I want to come onto this leg, I'm going to go center because I want to hinge over it really. And I'm going to work that heel in the air into warrior three, maybe standing splits. Okay, and then bring that leg back down, pressure on the outside of the heels. I'm going to stand myself up. Okay, so you see we're just starting to build on things. But I find with this, like my hips don't get tight. If I work things from the foot, I have so much mobility in my hips and strength now that I didn't have, that I was like fighting against because I didn't know how to make space and set things up. Okay? So let's go back to the back of the mat, go through on that other side. So weight on the outside, pressure, the outside edge of that heel as I find my chair. Now I'm going to set up that other leg. I'm going to start to shift the weight to the inside of that heel to step me forward. Okay? From here, work the heels into your high lunge. Okay? Maybe you come more to the inside of the heel if you want to kind of bring that torso forward. Reach behind the body. I'm going to come more inside of that heel, work that back heel to bring myself back up. And then again, I'm going to come middle. Find that warrior three, maybe to that standing splits. And then outside of the heel, chair pose, stand myself up. Okay? How'd that go? Any questions? Good, okay. Since you're live in the class, Carrie, is there a pose or a sequence you want to play with this in? Let's do that.
Now, where my hips used to get all seized up would be too long in those kind of standing things. So, but already I feel nothing, so I'm like, oh, it's totally different than, so, I don't know, I guess like a warrior one, warrior two, kind of thing where sometimes you feel like, oh, it's too much in that for the hips, and then usually what do we do? Because I never played the same.
Okay, so yeah, like,
And the dead space, so it would be interesting to see.
So hip airplanes is like an exercise that gets touted online, whatnot. I think the latest kind of iteration is it. So you take a weight and hold it in this hand, kind of over the back on this hip, and they're focusing on all moving the hip. So let's focus, as we have been, on the heel. Okay? So first thing is on this right leg, I'm just gonna have weight on the outside edge, get myself into this just secure leg. Okay? Now I'm gonna take that removed leg, work that heel in the air. As that heel in the air works, I'm kind of going between outside and middle of this heel. And I find the middle, starts to be able to lower me. And you might come out because, again, there's like an attention fatigue that might be new, right? Keeping your attention in that heel, being able, that fatigues. And so if this is brand new to feeling that heel, might fatigue sooner for some of you than it does for me. That's okay. Come on out. So now this sense of finding that hip airplane. I'm going to play with working again the bottom of the foot, reaching through the first and fifth to open my hips up a bit. Then I'm going to work that heel, working through first and fifth. I kind of have to have it come to the inside because I need my shin to pitch. As I come around to that other side. But you start to feel the hip, but it's a lot different. And we realize I've got to do something with these limbs. So because I've got this leg in the air, I'm going to use the limbs to kind of help me also with that pressure in the heel. So then as I come back to this side, this is where I'm thinking elbow, elbow, elbow. But also, do I need to do that? I don't know, because again, like when I'm running, hiking, anything, it's a nanosecond of contact with the ground and then what my leg is doing in the air. So if I want to do an exercise like hip airplanes, that's where you see them. They're at the gym. They hold on to this guy. They have this, and they're just moving their torso around the hip, which, I mean, I can do that, but in terms of if I want this to be something that I'm going to use to pitch a baseball, it's where that pressure is in that heel that then is going to set up what I release that ball like. It's not about moving the torso, it's the breaking of the heel and where I get pressure in that's going to set up that lever of my torso and arm. So, but for instance, okay, so let's go warrior 2. Let's set up so we're in a chair outside of the heel, okay? Now, I'm going to step back. So I'm going to keep weight outside of the heel. Might go a bit to the inside as I step back and open up, okay? So we're here in warrior 2, okay? Work that heel at the back of the mat. So for me, I kind of play with trying to roll it to the outside a little bit, to the center. This guy to the center, come down, we're in extended angle. And now where are you going to put pressure in the heel, the front pressure is going to be different where it's put in the heel compared to the back. That lets you straighten the legs and find triangle. But again, and I can see you in video, like you're not back bending. Like the action is coming through your legs. Yeah.
It feels ridiculously easy.
Yes.
Like it feels so easy, and when
My heels slightly elevated. And I want the back of the heel, but I don't want the back of, I'm not going to do the back of my shin. So this would be one end that you could take the Shavasana. The other way you could do it is by taking a yoga block, heels on the ground, but you're going to place this up like where the bum and the thigh are. And then you could reach it out that way. Both will have an impact at that heel end, but kind of feel each one and see which one you need today. And you're gonna pick the one that has you feel kind of the most ease and space across the back of the pelvis. And that's where, yeah. Also sense ease across the front of the hip joint and the front of the ankle joint. And maybe you can't get a position that like hits each of those, but then just assess the priority for you today and pick the one that settles that priority area and lets you drop into it. And as you drop into that priority area, just notice the effect on the breath.